Hi there, welcome to another student-related lesson on the channel. This is Wisdom, your host, and I believe that you'll find today's topic useful as usual. Now, our focus today is on self-regulated learning. In a previous video, we looked at cognitive learning strategies for students, and I believe that that was helpful. Now, another important thing when it comes to learning is what we call self-regulation, and by extension, self-regulated learning. And so in this lesson, that is what we want to examine, what it is and how students can, adopt this to make their learning experience better. Now, this is a topic that will be useful to you if you are a teacher or an educationist or a parent as well, because you will be able to use that to guide your learners or your children in their learning experience. Now, when we talk about self-regulated learning, what we are basically saying is that as the individual who is learning, as the individual who is engaging in any learning related activity, you have taken control of how the learning happens and the outcomes of that learning. So you are the one who is regulating the learning such that you'll be able to get the best of outcomes. And so it says that you yourself, as the person, as the student, you have become like the one in charge of what should go on when it comes to learning your math, learning your English, or completing an assignment, or doing anything related to your learning experience. And you are the one who has the key to unlocking or locking the potential related to that learning activity. And so self-regulated learning, in simple terms, is a process whereby learners take active control of their own learning experiences. The key word is active control. So the learner takes active control of his or her own learning experience by doing three key things: planning, monitoring, and evaluating their understanding and performance in that particular learning related activity. So as a student, as a learner, when we say self-regulated learning, what we mean is that you are actively taking charge of your learning experience. So you are planning, you are monitoring, and you are evaluating your learning experiences. And that is something that is very important in every student's life. You may know all the techniques that there are in the world, but if you are not able to self-regulate those techniques that we discussed in a previous video, cognitive learning strategies, you may not be able to benefit much from them. And so self-regulated learning is part of what we call metacognitive learning strategies. It's more like metacognitive learning strategies are a way of describing how, as a student, you are able to think about your own thinking. So how you are able to regulate really how you think and how that ends up, influencing your whole outcomes. And so how you plan, how you monitor, and how you evaluate your learning is very important. And in self-regulated learning, you set specific goals, you select specific strategies that are relevant, and you assess yourself along the line to see whether your goals and the strategies that you are using are really in sync, and whether or not you are getting the needed outcomes that you should get. And so you are adapting your behaviors, you are adapting the strategies along the line so that you can achieve the objectives that you want for yourself as a student. And so in self-regulated learning, you realize that it's very important because it helps you as the student to stay focused. It's like you have the key to the door. So you are the one in charge of your own destiny when it comes to learning, and you are able to open and close as and when it pleases you. You are able to stay focused You are like, you have the regulator to your learning, and you have learned or understood how to do that regulation of your learning experience in a very strategic way. So it enhances your academic performance as a result, and it also helps you to be able to manage your time, manage your resources better as a student. And that is very critical for every learner to do. Now, there are three key phases when it comes to self-regulated learning, and this we would examine based on a very renowned educationist, Zimmerman's model. So Zimmerman, Barry, helps us with three key phases when it comes to self-regulated learning, and the three phases are the forethought phase, the performance phase, and then the reflection phase. So three key steps, three key phases or stages when it comes to self-regulated learning, according to Barry Zimmerman. According to Barry Zimmerman, who is a very renowned educationist and one of the pioneers of self-regulated learning. So forethought phase, performance phase, and then reflection phase. We'll briefly run through all these three phases, and then we'll examine some of the key steps or strategies you can use in self-regulated learning. Now, the first phase, which is the forethought phase, is the phase that happens before the actual learning experience. So before I go to class and sit for the teacher to teach me, before I go to the reading room to go and study or revise my notes, before I go for the group discussion for studies, before I engage in any learning activity or learning session, any task related to my academic work, before I engage in that actual task, the phase before that, which is the phase of planning, is what we refer to as the forethought phase. And in that stage, or in that phase, you are supposed to be doing three key things. Number one is for you to define clear, specific, and achievable learning objectives. This is something that many of us do not do. So especially for you as a student, before you go for that lecture session, you should be able to have a certain goal in mind, a certain objective in mind, that as I'm going for this lecture, this and this is what I want to be able to achieve. And that presupposes that you would have been some student or a student who takes time to look at your course outline. And so you are aware that this week, for this particular sociology class or lecture, we are looking at this particular topic. So for this psychology lecture for this week, we are looking at, Bowlby's attachment theory. So you can set specific objectives for that learning, experience you are going to have, that it is your expectation that when you go, you will understand what John Bowlby's theory is all about. You will be able to apply it to how children form attachments in their early stages. And so you set specific, clear learning objectives that can be achieved. Before you go to that reading room to go and learn, you set clear objectives for your learning, that as I'm going, my expectation is that I'll be able to cover this amount of work or content from my notebook or my textbook. I would be able to spend 1 hour in the reading room. You have clear, specific learning objectives, and this is very important when it comes to self-regulated learning in the forethought phase. The second key thing that happens there is for you to select specific strategies that will help you to achieve your learning objectives or goals. So if I'm expecting that I'll go to this class and I'll get to understand what exactly Bowlby's attachment theory is and be able to apply it to, or make sense of it in how children develop attachments, then one of the key strategies will be to go to that lecture room or that lecture session very early, so I can sit in front or sit at a place where I would be able to engage the lesson. I'll be in flow. I will be at a place where there will not be so much distraction because I'm closer to where the lecturer is. I will not go and sit at a place where my friends will be distracting me, or at the back where I may not really be able to get much from the lesson. So you set specific strategies that can help you to achieve your goal for that lecture. After the lecture, I'll do A, B, C, and D, so that when you are going for that lecture session, you know that when the lecture ends, I'll go and meet the lecturer immediately after the session. You agree or you select specific strategies that can help you to achieve your learning objectives. And as we move on and we talk about some of the metacognitive learning strategies, we'll see how you can put them, to practice, or select some of them so that in the next phase you'll be able to adopt them. The third key thing that is happening or is supposed to happen in the forethought phase is for you to believe in your ability to succeed. And so self-motivation is one of the key things when it comes to self-regulated learning. I should be able to assure myself that once I stick to the plan, once I go there early, once I sit in front, once I pay attention, I will understand what is going to be taught. Once I go to the reading room, I set my alarm, I follow the specific, strategies I will set or I have set for myself. I will be able to cover what I need to cover and I will understand it. Assuring yourself, that self-encouragement is very important at the forethought phase. Sometimes we are going for lecture sessions a math class, or a subject that you don't really enjoy or you don't perform so well in. And already the mindset, the self-talk is that, this lecturer, when he teaches, I don't understand. This teacher, I don't understand. You have already set yourself up for not understanding whatever will be taught in the class. So in the forethought phase, we are saying that as you are regulating your learning experience, one of the things is for you to believe in your ability to succeed or achieve your learning objectives. So long as you have set, as we have said, clear, specific, and achievable objectives, you need to believe in your ability to execute or achieve them. So that is the forethought phase, the phase before the actual learning session or learning related task. Now, the second phase is the performance phase. So this is the place where you are actually doing the learning or engaging in the learning activity. So this is where you are in the class, in that classroom, in that lesson. This is where you are in the group discussion. This is where you are in the reading room doing your personal revision. This is the phase where the actual learning or task performance is happening. And at this stage, you are executing your objectives, your learning objectives. You are applying the strategies you said you will use, and you are monitoring how the learning is going. So it is in this phase that the strategies, whether it's cognitive learning strategies that we've spoken about in a previous video, or some of the metacognitive learning strategies we'll talk about shortly, you are applying them. The things you said you will do, you go and sit in front, you go to the lesson early, you go for that group discussion. At the forethought stage, you said that when I go, I will contribute, I'll ask questions. Now you are doing that asking of questions, answering questions, contributing. You are applying the things, executing the things that you said in the forethought phase. And one of the things you are also doing is the metacognition, which we'll look at shortly. You are checking to see, how am I really understanding what this lecturer is teaching? Is it that maybe I'm not following well? Then as that is happening, you are making the adjustments that need to be done. So you are self-monitoring. You are tracking how your progress is going relative to the objectives you set for yourself when it comes to that learning activity or session. And you are making any adjustments that are necessary. So your colleague that is sitting by you, you may, ask them a question just to be clear, or you raise your hand and then ask the lecturer a question, the teacher a question. If you are supposed to be writing notes and you realize that as I'm writing the notes, I'm not really paying attention, divided attention. At this phase where performance is happening, you are monitoring yourself and realizing that, okay, then I need to stop writing and pay full attention to the lecturer. And this is the phase that we call the performance phase. Then the final phase is the reflection phase. After the learning activity is done, after lecture session is done, your class session is done, after you have finished the assignment, after you have done your personal reading in the reading room, you've gone for the group's discussion, you are done with it. After that phase is what we call the reflection phase. And this is the phase where you evaluate your performance and your reactions that happened in, your actions that happened in the previous phase, the performance phase. So I'm comparing what happened when I went for the lecture session. Did I really get what attachment theory is really about? Can I practically relate it? I mentioned that, I'll ask questions, I'll answer questions. Did I have the confidence to ask the questions or answer questions? I am evaluating all of these and I'm comparing what actually happened to the objectives that I set in the forethought phase. And I'm now trying to find a causal, attribution. What made me succeed in that learning activity, in that exam that I went to write, that learning activity, a learning related activity, all the forethought, the planning that went into how I'll answer the questions and all. When I went into the exam room, what happened? Why did I succeed or why did I fail? Then whether or not I'm satisfied or disappointed, that would now lead to me deciding whether to adjust my strategies or if in future I should really avoid the strategy I use. So maybe the group discussions hasn't been helping. This is the reflection phase. Maybe I should just stay with the individual, learning, or I should find another group to learn with. Maybe the strategies I said I'll use in answering the questions, I'll answer the compulsory question first before I go and answer the ones that you select two from the three options. It didn't really work. And I am reflecting on why that really didn't help me to finish on time. And then I make the needed adjustment. So you'll see that when you go through these phases, when it comes to your learning engagement, the forethought phase, the performance phase, and the reflection phase, and you make it a thing that has become a part of you, it makes you a better student, a better learner, and you would be able to make the needed progress that is, appropriate. Now, we have looked at the phases, what self-regulated learning is, and the phases in the, self-regulated learning cycle, according to Zimmerman. Now, let's delve into a little bit of some of the key strategies you can use at the performance stage. So in the actual sense of it, what we call the metacognitive learning strategies. And one of the things that you can do is what we say self-questioning. Self-questioning is an important way of monitoring yourself to be sure that whatever you are learning, whether someone is teaching you or you are learning on your own or you are supposed to do a project, whatever learning activity, whether or not you are really getting it, whether you are making progress in terms of your learning. The self-questioning is very important. So regularly, you need to ask yourself, as I'm going through the attachment theory notes, as I'm revising it, do I understand this thing that he's talking about, that, the primary caregiver is a safe haven to the child, serves as a safe haven to the child. And so if there's care, if there's love and support, consistency in behavior for the child, they will take that primary caregiver, the mother especially, as their safe haven, and that whenever there's separation from that primary carer, there's what we call the separation anxiety that can occur. Do I really understand all these things that they are saying? Do I really get it? As you move on, then you are getting the types of attachment formation or attachment styles, and you are asking yourself, what is the main idea in all of these? So the attachment types, the secure attachment and insecure attachment, what are the main differences? What is the main point for each of the types, the subtypes of insecure attachment? Which one is the avoidant attachment? How is that different from the other ones? You ask yourself questions, and that is self-questioning. And self-questioning is supposed to help you to see whether the things you are reading, you really get it. Sometimes the student goes to the learning room, you just go and read over the notes, you think you have understood it, then they give you questions and you are wondering whether or not that particular thing you did was really learning. So the self-questioning is an important metacognitive strategy. It helps you to think about how you are thinking when learning, and that is very important for regulating yourself as a learner. The second key metacognitive strategy when it comes to self-regulated learning is summarization. So as you finish up the definition of attachments, how the historical bits about attachment theory, John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, you have read all those parts. At some specific points, you need to pause and summarize what you have learned in your own words. So this particular part on maybe the child's internal working model, how they see themselves, in terms of being competent when relating with others, and all the other concepts that you read, you summarize it. So in summary, this particular theory, model of attachment, according to Bowlby, is saying that for every developing child, for every infant, when they get consistent care and love from their primary caregiver, it helps the child to feel secure, believe that they can trust their caregiver and that they are safe around their caregiver. And this is something that can help them growing up for their relationships with others or forming new relationships. This can help as a key foundation for them. You have summarized what you have learned from that particular revision session. Now, the third key one is the think aloud technique. And I think this is something that some of us do or did a lot. So more like, in nursery, in lower primary, they repeat after me. So the teacher is teaching and, says the definition for photosynthesis, and you will all have to say it after the teacher. And then, the teacher will ask who can say it alone or who can define it alone without looking on the board or looking in their book. The idea is to help you to capture the definition well, for you to be able to recite the poem without looking into the book. And that think aloud technique is like saying aloud what you have assumed that you've captured in your mind. And so you stored it, but you need to voice it out. So when we were children, when they send us to go and buy something, some of us on the way will keep mentioning the thing until the point where we do not forget. So that is the think aloud technique. So as you are learning, you need to verbalize your thought process while you are solving the problem. So if it's a math problem, yes, it's fine. You can solve without saying aloud. But, sometimes you need to voice it aloud, So at this point, so we need to divide this by this. And that is because, so you are bringing your thoughts verbally. And if it's a reading something, a poem that you are trying to memorize, you say it aloud, and it helps to enhance the storage and recall of such information. Then we have number 4, which is what we call this concept mapping. Concept mapping, is a very important cognitive and then metacognitive strategy. So it helps you to create diagrams or visuals that try to explain what you are learning. And so if it's about the attachment model and all that, sometimes some of the visuals can help capture the point better than just the notes. And so as you are also learning, or if you are a teacher teaching, it's important to use some of these concept maps. So attachment at the top, then secure attachment, insecure attachment. Then there's the arrow where you have the insecure, ambivalent, insecure, avoidant, disorganized, disoriented. So the arrows point to the specific, subdivisions. It's about if it's about this nervous system, you have the central, the peripheral. Then there's the mapping central nervous system. We have the brain, the spinal cord, the peripheral nervous system. We have the somatic, and then all that. So the concept maps are generally supposed to help you with connecting the ideas, the concepts, the relationships that are within all the things that you are learning in a way that visually makes sense to you. And so you are not just recalling information that is written. Your brain is also capturing pictures and visuals. And when it comes to time for you to recall, you have multiple, ways of recalling what has been learned. Then number 5 is what we call self-assessment. Sometimes you need to set questions for yourself. For some people or for some students, you would want to use past questions, and that is fine. So you go to past questions for that course or for that subject, and then you try to answer for yourself. That is also an important way. So you want to test your understanding. This is different from the self-questioning, which happens when you are asking yourself, do I understand this? What does this mean? And all that. This one, if I'm done learning the attachment theory according to John Bowlby, I need to set questions for myself so that I'll be able to see whether I can answer such related questions later on if it's an exam or they ask me for specific responses. So practice questions. You can use past questions that are already there, or you yourself can set questions for yourself and then see how you will be able to answer them. You can let a colleague mark it for you, or you can let your tutor, some teachers are willing to look through it and mark it for you, or you yourself, when you are done, you can check your textbook, check your notes, and then mark what you did. Then the final metacognitive strategy for self-regulated learning we'll look at is the reflective journaling. Journaling is a way of writing down your thoughts, writing down your experiences and all. So in reflective journaling, you are writing about what you have learned, what was the challenge, and the areas that you need to improve. So I learned about, attachment theory according to John Bowlby, and this is what I learned. Now, what were the challenges during my learning time? Maybe when I went to the reading room, there were challenges. So one of the challenges, the reading room was not conducive. There was so much heat in there. So you'd note down in your journal, or your book for reflection when it comes to your learning, you note them down so that you can now make adjustments going forward. So that if it's the reading room that wasn't really conducive, you look for another reading room. Maybe you have to go to a different hall. I remember during my undergraduate study, I would move from my hall at the University of Ghana, Elizabeth Say. I would leave there and go to the main campus, Ekwafo main reading room, and then go and then do my revision. So there are things that, because you are reflecting on your learning experience. You journal them, what you learned, what were the challenges, and then things that you can improve. You would realize that you'll also get to know areas that you need to maybe to speak to your teacher, speak to your lecturer, speak to a colleague to explain better to you. Go online, do some reading. Maybe as part of your learning, you went on YouTube and you looked at some videos and all that. But as you do your reflective journaling, you realize that a lot of the videos on that particular topic are not really understandable. And so going forward, you know what to do. So these are 6 key strategies that can help when it comes to the self-regulated learning. And you realize that the first one, self-questioning; the second one, summarization; the third one, think aloud; number 3, the fourth one, concept mapping; the fifth one, self-assessment; and then the final one, reflective journaling, are very basic things that as a student, when you do, can help you. It will help you with the performance phase of your learning, and it can also help, especially for the self-assessment and reflective journaling. It can help you with the third phase of being able to, reassess your performance and how you can make the necessary improvements. And this is where I would want to end today's lesson. I believe that if you are a student and you apply some of these things, consistency is very important. Self-discipline is very important. You'd see that you find some improvements when it comes to the learning activities you engage in, how you are able to benefit from it, and then that will reflect also in your academic performances. Thank you very much for making time to join today's lesson on self-regulated learning. I hope that I'll see you in the next one. Let me know if there's any topic you'd want us to treat when it comes to students, and I'll be glad to work on that. You can put it in the comment section, or you can send me a private message if you are someone who has any of my contacts. Thank you and stay safe. Bye-bye.